faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, WWIII America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us on this May 27th, 2025. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Hope you did. And by the way, I hope a lot of you, we're going to be joined by David Pine, I should say, and by Aaron from Israel. But I hope a lot of you had the chance to watch our first documentary TV special, history special, Lord willing, of many, many, many to follow. Because as you know, we're starting a Worldview History channel. And we have a lot more footage to produce into TV specials, but we released the first one on Friday. And it is on the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. And we got a lot of communications over the weekend. A lot of people saying how much they learned, things they did not know. Some people said, I wasn't born then. I wasn't old enough to remember this. I really didn't know much about it. How cool that you went to the actual location and took us there. And so we got a lot of great feedback, and we'd love to have you promote it to more people. Logan, David's asking for a link, so if you want to get with David, that'd be great. But it's at worldviewtube.com now for you to watch, worldviewtube.com if you missed it. It's there for you to watch. Now, we have a lot going on, obviously, in the world, as always. We have a lot going on with Russia and Kiev. Seems as though the NATO members, these crazy Emmanuel Macron types, want World War III. Germany wants World War III. A lot of them are, by the way, in bad financial situation. Europe, a lot of these countries are in bad shape, and so it's time to go to war. Time to go to war when you're in bad shape for a distraction, and also, I guess, to justify a lot of government money. That's Keynesian economics, if you will. When there's a slowdown in the economy, the government becomes the primary spender. By the way, you see Emmanuel Macron got shoved in the face by his, quote, teacher, end quote. I guess it's his wife now. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors out there. But what's not a rumor is that apparently he, as a minor, had a relationship with a married mother who was his teacher. I think that's what you call pedophilia, is it not? I don't know. Have you ever noticed that these world leaders, whether it's Emmanuel Macron, Zelensky, a lot of them are just kind of perverts, off the chain. I wonder if that has to do with Romans 1. Romans 1 says that when a nation rejects God over and over, he finally gives them over. And one of the things he does is he gives them leaders. It's in Romans 1 around verse 32. He gives the nation leaders that know the righteous judgments of God, but reject them and encourage others to do so as well. So that was interesting footage, was it not, over the weekend, to see Emmanuel Macron getting pushed in the face by his teacher? What else do we have? Go over to worldviewreport.com, worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. We're going to have on tomorrow Peter McIlvena out of the UK. It's been a while since we've had Peter on. But I noticed a story today that says, we have to talk about this. Jewish protester charged for mocking Hezbollah. Yeah, it's over at worldviewreport.com today, your daily aggregated news site. Contemporary Britain couldn't possibly be satirized. It is already so ridiculous that it has itself gone beyond the ridiculous that would be necessary for satire. At this point, it could impose full Sharia, that's Islamic law, anytime. And its government would hardly act much differently from how it acts now. Here's the article from The Telegraph. A Jewish protester was arrested by Metropolitan Police police after he briefly held a placard satirizing a Hezbollah terrorist leader. The British man was asked to remain anonymous, for his safety, was detained and charged last September over a cartoon that showed Hassan Nasrallah, the Lebanese terror chief, with a pager and the words beep, beep, beep. The placard satirized a targeted Israeli attack dubbed Operation Grim Beeper. Don't you love that? Operation Grim Beeper. Of course, that's where explosives were in the pagers and walkie-talkies, killed 42 terrorists, mostly Hezbollah terrorists. Nasrallah survived, but was killed in an airstrike a week later. During questioning, police repeatedly asked the man, who was part of a counter-demonstration against a pro-Palestinian march, if he believed the image would offend, quote, clearly pro-Hezbollah and anti-Israel, end quote, activists, end quote. Well, you know, we don't want to offend. We don't want to offend pro-Islamic, pro-Iran, pro-death cult, a satanic death cult. We don't want to offend them now, do we? Says the UK. Or anti-Israel activists, meaning anti-Semites. We don't want to offend them now, do we? Over the weekend, I spent, probably good 8+ hours on Saturday studying, trying to get ahead of the game, if you will, the schedule, the constant grind of news and 24/7 radio and TV, to get ahead on my studying of Revelation chapter 16. Lord willing, this Sunday night, we'll bring you Revelation chapter 16, verse 1, be lesson 39, as I've now taught 38 one-hour sessions on the book of Revelation on our Sunday night church service. But as I was studying that over the weekend, I was reminded by the scriptures, this global anti-Semitism that's going to get absolutely out of control to the point of massive slaughter of Jews and Gentiles too, by the way. And when you read the scriptures, particularly the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel, you think to yourself, how could the world reach this point, right? Where people are being hunted down simply because they're A, Jews, and then B, Gentiles as well, because they refuse the mark. Revelation 13. Now, post October 7th, we have an understanding, don't we? Because as we broke that seal, if you will, here in this natural world now, a seal has almost been broken, has it not? We talk about the 7-seal judgment of the book of Revelation, and those seals have not begun to be broken, but almost in some sense, something prophetically has been broken. And the stage is being set for these events to come to pass. And on October 7th, Aaron and Annie and some of the other folks that joined us that day, we said, look, folks, this is going to boomerang real quick. You got the slaughter, the rape, the systematic rape, gang rape. You've got the beheading. You have cutting off of hands, feet, killing children, putting a baby in an oven, all cutting off of breasts. Remember we showed you the pictures unscrambled that day, and we said this is all going to come around and boomerang on Israel, and you watch the massive spike in anti-Semitism. Now, in the UK, a man has been charged for simply holding up a political, religious placard, making a political and religious statement about the Iranian terror cells, Hezbollah. And the police over there, according to the Telegraph, want to know, did you believe the image would offend pro-Hezbollah people? See, we got to be careful not to offend them. Really? Did you ever think that the police would come to the point where they're defending Iranian terrorists? Well, they are. The Telegraph also uncovered the case of Julian Folks, a retired special constable who was wrongly cautioned by Kent police for warning about the threat of anti-Semitism in Britain. Here's what I need to ask. And I don't really know the answer, and I want to go study it more. This debased, darkened-hearted, evil, lining up with terrorism that Britain has done, I'm just asking a question here, and I'm going to go research it. Is this what our founding fathers were fighting in part? Is there something almost genetic in the DNA over there that causes these people to seem to love terrorism, and love evil? And I'm not condemning all Europeans, obviously, or people in the UK, but there's something about the governments over there, right? Nazi Germany. I mean, they've had a few bright moments here and there. But isn't it interesting that as we go back to studying the book of Revelation, book of Daniel, we see that there are 7 heads that represent 7 kingdoms. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and 1 is yet to come. And we go back through Daniel, through the book of Revelation, we quickly find out the Medo-Persian Empire, right? The Grecian Empire. Those that have fallen, Babylon, 5 that have fallen, 1 is, at the time John was writing, Rome, and 1 is yet to come, a revived Roman Empire. And you know what that denotes is that all of these nations will still be there in essence today, right? They're still there. Their ancestors, their parts, their pieces, their worldview, their philosophies, their ideas. There's nothing new under the sun. Isn't that what Solomon said? And they will lay the foundation for a system that will come together collectively to build a world kingdom, a one world government, one world religion, one world economy, led by a one world leader known as the Antichrist. And as you go back through time and study many of these nations were just flat out evil. Not only evil, but very anti-Christian. And obviously, many of them were out after the Jews constantly and grabbing them and defeating them and taking them into captivity. But I really have to ask, is this some of what our founding fathers were warning about when it came to Great Britain? And we do know that when they got over here, when crazy King George sent, and who apparently was suffering from blue blood's disease, which is a type of venereal disease that went to his brain. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. He was so irrational, breaking his own British common law, British Magna Carta, prisoning people without trials, taking up residence in their home, all the crazy, tyrannical, terrorist things they were doing. It's like, wait a minute. Is this the same idea that was going on for our founders that we now see as they come after religion and free speech and free thought, and line up with Islamists? Don't go away. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to WWIII.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to WWIII.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at WWIII.com. Again, WWIII.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. WorldviewTalk.com. WorldviewTalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Of course, tonight we're going to deal with The 36-year-old former translator for U.S. forces in Afghanistan who was fatally shot by Virginia police after he pulled a gun during a traffic stop. That's been all over social media. We'll deal with that tonight, along with other things. We are joined now, however, first by David Pine. Then we're going to go to Aaron, our reporter on the ground in Israel. A lot's happened since we took off for the Memorial Day weekend. Seems as though the NATO leaders really want World War III. Now they're eliminating any restrictions on the range of missiles going deep into Russia. Apparently, there was an assassination attempt against President Putin and drones sent after his helicopter. President Trump got very frustrated with Putin and expressed that to reporters over the weekend, referred to Putin as going crazy. Doesn't know what's happened to him. Then when President Trump was alerted about the assassination attempt, he said, I did not know about that. Well, that to me also raises questions, folks, because I'm not the president. I knew about it. So are they keeping the president in the dark on some issues as far as timing goes? I don't know. But the European leaders sure seem to want war. Let's talk about that quickly with David Pine. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, great to be with you.
You too, my friend. Okay, give us your thoughts on this weekend. And you knew about the assassination attempt on Putin. How is it that President Trump seemed to be informed of this by reporters, not his own staff?
Well, it's what we discussed earlier. I think it's the worry that I expressed in an article that I wrote on November 13th entitled "Revenge of the Neocons" when he picked Mike Waltz as his national security advisor, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Keith Kellogg to lead negotiations with Russia and Ukraine, and then of course John Ratcliffe at CIA. And it seems like he's getting fed a steady stream of neocon propaganda, and he's only getting one side. For a while, it seemed like he was getting both sides. And you would think with Waltz out of the picture that things might have improved a bit. But clearly, he's not being informed of, what Ukraine's doing to Russia. When Zelensky tries to, assassinate Putin by using drones to shoot down his helicopter, that's a pretty big deal. And yet nothing was said by the president because he wasn't aware of it. And of course, there's also been massive drone attacks. There were massive drone attacks that just preceded the Russian Victory Day parade that put 29 foreign leaders in danger of probably not immediate danger, but certainly it was a signal that no one was safe, or at least that was the signal that Zelensky was trying to give. Even though Russian air defenses are pretty massive, so they probably were safe. But these are details that Trump's not getting, and so when there's a missile attack or retaliation to the assassination attempt, or to Ukrainian drone attacks on Moscow or other targets, or even these Storm Shadows and now Taurus missiles that are being used in deep strikes inside pre-war Russian territory, that message isn't getting through to the president. So it's very concerning, and it's very surprising because Tulsi Gabbard, was supposed to, at least during her nomination process, we were told that she would be briefing the president on a daily basis with a presidential daily brief. But we've since heard that that's not occurring nearly as frequently. And it just surprises me that, she wouldn't include this type of information in her brief.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I heard that, I was thinking to myself, how is it we know more than the president of the United States? That wasn't very comforting at all, right? I'm thinking, this is scary, to be frank, that he has to hear this from the press when we had known about this for a while. Any of us that, follow news feeds almost in real time, for him being on social media so much, you would think he was seeing this. But I think what we've learned is he's actually not on social media a lot. He will dictate what he wants put on social media. Maybe it's time for him to actually be on social media himself so we can see how much his aides are keeping him in the dark, David.
Well, I know the president doesn't have time to be on social media. It would be great if he did, but I mean, he's busy around the country. He's trying to negotiate agreements. He's making foreign trips, and he's trying to get through the big beautiful bill, of course, through Congress. But You're right. There needs to be some kind of alternate media. I mean, certainly in the past, during his first term, he was, his neocon advisors put a couple of conservative sites, I think like Breitbart and the Daily Caller, off his do not allow him to read list. And thankfully, he's not being micromanaged to that extent. But he is being given one side of the story, and it's the story being told by the neocon warmongers who sabotaged his first term. They're not clearly openly enemies of the president as they were before, or saboteurs, but they're clearly very biased, and they're causing him to make some unforced errors in foreign policy that are regretful, because he really does have this opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity, to make peace with Russia, to negotiate a strategic partnership agreement with the Russian Federation that could neutralize the Sino-Russian military alliance. He could support the the ceasefire deal in Israel that's favorable, I think, to both Israel and the Palestinians, but bad for Hamas because they would have to disarm and be removed from power and banned for good, and hopefully go into exile. But he's not doing that, and so I'm not sure what the solution is, but clearly he has some good people, Vice President Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and some other America First folks as well. We know that Alex Wald, who was serving as principal national security advisor, has been removed and replaced with two other individuals, one of whom is really good, and it's Vice President Vance's national security advisor, who's now dual-hatted as deputy national security advisor. So there's been some positive developments. He also, one thing we didn't mention yet is that Marco Rubio, as acting national security advisor, has actually fired half of the national security staff, most of which were likely kind of neocon deep staters. So despite the fact that Rubio is kind of on the fence, more of a neocon, I think, than America First, he's making some changes that hopefully are positive in our direction.
Let's talk about the NATO, the European nations releasing restrictions on missiles and how far they can be shot into Russia. These guys are just adamant to get us to World War III, are they not?
They are, and it's really absurd. We have these leaders in the EU and of course Zelensky in Ukraine that are acting in complete opposition to their national security interests, just as neocon leaders of the U.S. have in the past, certainly the Biden regime. But it would be one thing if the EU combined military was a match for Russia. If they were overmatched by Russian nuclear forces by 32-1, if they weren't overmatched in terms of weapons and munitions program along with the U.S. by 4-1, then maybe this would be okay to do and might not spark a war. But military weakness combined with aggressive diplomacy, we know, does spark wars, unnecessary wars, and in a nuclear age, a necessary world war with Russia and/or China could result in 1 billion lives lost. So this is nothing to be so to do too casually, and yet the EU leaders seem to be very bold and assuming that they have the U.S. backing, which I'm not convinced they do. I've been saying for a while now, I think President Trump, if the EU were to provoke Russia to attack them, I think Trump might sit out the war and just feed them weapons, just as he's done with Ukraine, and they'd be in a rude surprise and they'd be defeated in short order by Russia.
Is Russia starting to see right now, if they just keep going, they can take the whole thing?
That's one thing I disagree with Trump on. There's zero evidence that Putin's ever wanted all of Ukraine. I mean, certainly he could have taken Kyiv at the beginning of the war, or certainly surrounded it if he hadn't withdrawn Russian military forces unilaterally from 30% of Russian-held territory before the Istanbul Agreement was signed. The war would have been ended because Zelensky would have been forced to sign the agreement, and that, of course, remains the key to Ukrainian capitulation, is another northern offensive that partially or fully surrounds Kyiv and forces Zelensky to make peace on Russian terms. But Russia's made clear they would be very, very satisfied with control of the full control of the 5 oblasts that they currently have annexed. So that would leave Ukraine with 19 oblasts remaining, and about 77 or 78% of their internationally recognized territory. So, that's clearly not all of Ukraine. It's not even 1/4 of Ukraine. It's more like 1/5 of Ukraine. But they've also made clear that now that it seems that Ukraine has rejected that offer, and apparently the U.S. as well, they plan to go conquer another 4 oblasts. And in fact, they already have partial control of 9 Ukrainian oblasts with their recent advance in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So they're making increasing progress territorially. Nothing too major, but they're advancing along 6 different fronts, and they have the military potential to occupy all of Ukraine east of the Dnipro River, and again, partially surround Kyiv as well. So I would not be surprised at all. In fact, I would be surprised if they didn't make those kind of moves by next month.
Okay, and in closing, anything else you should brief our audience on?
Well, I think that one of my main concerns continues to be Iran. I'm very, very concerned that the administration might be unwilling to compromise with Iran. Of course, I continue to believe that Iran is a terrorist regime. Not super happy at the idea of lifting sanctions on them, but I strongly oppose military strikes in Iran because I believe they likely already have nuclear missiles, and I think that could greatly increase the risk to both the U.S. and Israel, perhaps not in terms of an Iranian nuclear response, but maybe a massive cyber attack or even a super EMP attack on the U.S. homeland that could cause our country to collapse.
Yeah, it could be a huge problem, that's for sure. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. David, as always, we appreciate your updates.
Thanks, Brandon. Always a pleasure.
David Pine checking in, dpine.substack.com. All right, joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. There is a lot in the news when it comes to Israel. Where does one start? But maybe right here with some good news, and that would be the state of Israel is alive, breathing, and kicking. Israeli Police Commissioner tells JBN, marking 58th anniversary of Jerusalem's liberation. Joining me now is Aaron from Israel. Aaron, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be with you.
I'm not hearing. There we go. So that was a long communication gap between us and Israel.
I was on mute,
okay.
and I was on mute, and I didn't realize. So sorry about that.
Okay, there you go. All right. So let's start with the good news. We got a break coming up pretty quick. 58th anniversary of the liberation of Jerusalem. That was during the 1967 war, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, Brandon. That was the June 1967. We were getting attacked on all sides. The enemies were surrounding us, and in a preemptive strike, our jets fired on the Syrian and Egyptian runways, practically crippling both of their air forces, which gave us the air supremacy, which was the key to winning against a few 100 million Arab Muslims in only 6 days.
Hold right there. And taking back the Jerusalem Mount as well. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. This is in my series on Hamas. Listen to this. Despite Israel's appeal to Jordan to stay out of the war, Jordanian forces fired artillery barrages from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Although Israeli forces did not respond initially, not wanting to open up a Jordanian front in the war, Jordan continued to attack and occupied UN headquarters in Jerusalem. Israeli forces fought back and within 2 days managed to repulse the Jordanian forces and retake eastern Jerusalem. On June 7th, 1967, IDF paratroopers advanced through the Old City toward the Temple Mount and Western Wall, bringing Jerusalem's holiest site under Jewish control for the first time in 2,000 years. There are sound recordings of the scene as the commander of the brigade, Lieutenant General Mordecai Gur, approaches the Old City and announces to his company's commanders, quote, "We're sitting right now on the ridge and we're seeing the Old City. Shortly, we're going to go into the Old City of Jerusalem that all generations have dreamed about. We will be the first to enter the Old City," end quote. Shortly afterwards, quote, "The Temple Mount is in our hands." I repeat, the Temple Mount is in our hands, end quote. General Rabbi Shlomo Gorin, chief chaplain of the IDF, sounded the shofar at the Western Wall to signify its liberation. To Israelis and Jews all over the world, this was a joyous and momentous occasion. Many considered it a gift from God. June 7th, 1967, 58 years ago. Aaron, pick it up there, please.
Brandon, you had to be in Jerusalem yesterday, and you have to plan one day to come. If I would recommend just one day of the year, it's Jerusalem Day, because literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Israelis, mostly observant Jewish people, they come up from all around the country. They're singing songs out on the streets. They're not drugged up. They're not alcoholed up. They are high on God's word, on Zionism, on our history, on what happened 58 years ago. They realize the importance. Jerusalem is our ancient capital. This is where King David came up. He brought the Ark of the Covenant. He was dancing, he was singing, he was rejoicing, he was unifying the 12 tribes. This was such an important event because, they say without a heart, it's impossible to live. Without Jerusalem in our hands, there's not the heart that we have with Jerusalem. So to see the celebrations and the dancing and the singing, and they're singing psalms. They're singing the Psalms of Ascension, and they go through a march. There's a route that right through Jerusalem, right through the Old City, and even right through the Muslim quarter, which caused controversy because, like every people in the world, you always get the bad apples. And so we had a number of our extreme right-wingers from the territories, from Judea and Samaria. They were chanting things that were very nationalistic, which I'm for, but they were calling out things, including death to our enemies. And, some people say, well, we're at a war. Why shouldn't we? And the Israelites in the Bible were calling out death to our enemies. But we're in a democracy. We have 2 million Arabs that live among us. So it was blown up on the news, you can imagine. But for the most part, it was a peaceful march, but it was a joyous march. And as I say, this is celebrating.
Now, your National Security Minister, Ben Gvir, he visited the Temple Mount, and he says that prayer and prostration are now permitted. So this is the guy, by the way, that wants to have sacrifices up there, right?
Well, actually, I was up there, Brennan, with a small little family from Dallas, Texas, and we saw some of these Jewish people, and definitely there was 1,500 that came up yesterday. And we saw them prostrating on the ground. Ben-Gvir has legalized it. He has taken, some would say, the chutzpah, the guts to do that. And he's done it. And of course, as you asked, as you noted, he definitely wants to see a rebuilt temple. So actually, I was a bit surprised that there was only 1,500 that came up yesterday. But in any event, it was a statement. It was a political statement. And it was quite exciting to see them up there.
Now, you got 3 ISIS terrorists. This is all at worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. 3 ISIS terrorists arrested as officials warn of growing support among Israeli Arabs. Now, you mentioned 2 million Arabs living in Israel. Obviously, you have some of them that are now turning out to be terrorists. So this is obviously creating a lot of tension in your country, correct?
Brandon, this is a very serious danger, because this is what we would call a Trojan horse. Because these Arab people, when I say Arab people, some are Arab Muslims, some are Arab Christians. But be that as it may, they go to our schools, they play sports with us, they live in our neighborhoods and our communities. And we don't know. We don't know what side they're on. Now, we have our intelligence. We have our information and our undercover, the equivalent to your FBI, the Shabak, they're called. So, yeah, we have them, and we have our cyber intelligence as well. This is crucial. But yes, some of these 2 million, they go to mosques. Every Friday afternoon, which is the Muslim call to prayer, and when they have their weekly sermons by the caliphs and the sheikhs and the imams, they're filled with hatred. They're filled with anti-Israel rhetoric. And remember, we're a democracy. Here in Israel, you're allowed to speak against your government, just like in the United States. So they really speak against it. They want a caliphate here in Israel. So it's a big, big, big concern. And we're not even talking about Judea and Samaria. We're talking about in the Jewish cities where Arabs live, like Jerusalem, like Haifa, like Tel Aviv, like Jaffa. Very, very concerning, as if we don't have enough fronts to fight.
Here's another one. IDF strikes over 100 terror sites in Gaza as Gideon's chariots ramps up. IDF dismantled the launcher used to fire a projectile at southern Israel on Friday. My Red Alert app has also been going off a little bit in the last 24 hours. Give me the latest on the war and Gaza and rockets coming in.
Brandon, one of the reasons why I believe these 2 young, dear Israeli Messianics were murdered last week, and why things have blown up anti-Semitically around the world, is because the world and those pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian people, they know that Hamas's end is near. Our brave soldiers, and when I say our brave soldiers, 450 reservists have been called up until the end of August. We are going for it, Brandon. This is it. This is the end is near. We've got to be very careful how we deal with the humanitarian issue. That's the main concern, as well as the most sensitive issue, and that's the 58 hostages, of which we know probably at least a half are dead. But this is a national sensitive issue, to put it mildly. So the humanitarian aid and the hostage issue, these 2 are the main issues that we've got to be careful. But it's not holding our soldiers back. We are pounding Gaza, and as I say, the end is near. And the sooner Hamas get it, the better. They even the Palestinian people in Gaza, Brandon, they know it as well. They're welcoming the Americans. They're welcoming an overthrow of Hamas. They're starting to turn more and more against Hamas and the leadership. So 10 days ahead, but on one hand, but on the other hand, exciting in the sense that, this war, it's 599 days old now, and it is just brutally going on and on. I sent you a text about what some of our soldiers and their families are going through. It's just heartbreaking what this war has, the price that our nation has paid for.
Let me read that. You mind if I read it? Is that okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, this is from a close friend of Aaron's. Quote, I thought this information was important to pass on for you all to pray into however the Lord leads you to. I spent an entire day with the Alexandriani Battalion on the Syrian border, delivering uniforms, face masks, shirts, belts. They graciously took me on a tour of the area. I witnessed how they protect the Druze communities and the deep, beautiful relationship they've built with them. But what impacted me most wasn't just what I saw, it was what I heard. I sat and listened to their hearts. That's why I'm writing this. These soldiers are facing something beyond the battlefield. Many spoke about how hard it is to come home. There's a growing gap between them and their families, wives and children, who are thinking about normal, everyday things while they carry the weight of war, of brothers still fighting, of friends they left behind. They're not the same. War has changed them. Their priorities have shifted, and now home no longer feels like home. Some shared with me, with sorrow, they believe many of them will soon face divorce, not because they don't love their families, but because they no longer know how to connect. Please pray for our warriors and defenders, for the men who lay down their lives to protect us and the land God has given us. They need strength, healing, and hope, not only on the battlefield, but also in the quiet places where no one sees the war still raging inside. End quote. Aaron, comment on that, please.
Brandon, that really is heartbreaking to hear it again. I just wonder how many Americans are listening to what you just read, and they went through it themselves, either in Vietnam or other wars. The cost of this ugly war, the psychological, emotional, spiritual damage, what it's going to take to bring healing, how much time is it going to take to heal this rift? And there was, I guess we could dissect just about every sentence, but the one that really struck me was when they said, it's not that we don't love our wives or our families, it's just that the bridge has been broken, the connection has been broken, the priorities, the weight of these soldiers, what they're carrying, we're battling for our survival here, and what the wives and the children, I'm sure they understand as well, that their husbands are battling for their own survival. But it's just the cause and effect of the distance, of the pain, of the fracture in society and the breakdown of
yes,
of
indeed.
the home.
Hold right there. 1-800-347-9829. Phone line's open. 1-800-347-9829. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio. Our website, worldviewradio.com. Worldviewradio.com. Hey, don't forget about our fall conference coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Okay? It is our 22nd annual Ozarks, not Ozarks, we moved it from the Ozarks to the Mid-South. Our 22nd annual conference, or our national conference, 22nd annual conference. We only have seating for 350 people. That's it. That's all the seating we have in this beautiful auditorium in the Mid-South, outside of Memphis, in Collierville, Tennessee, right next to Germantown. All the information, the hotels, everything is there for you. The speakers, Alex Newman, myself, Chris Martinson, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, Dr. Andy Woods, Hadia, let's see, Sidney Powell, Gordon Chang. It's an amazing lineup. The rest of you can watch if you like, if you're a member of our vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. You'll be able to live stream it as a member, but there's nothing like being there in person. I'll tell you that, folks. Particularly with only 350 seats, you'll have plenty of opportunity to walk right up and talk to the speakers. So again, full details at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions on anything going on. By the way, what do you think about what's going on with the NATO leaders as they're now lifting restrictions on missiles going into Ukraine, or excuse me, into Russia? Are you concerned about World War III? What are your thoughts on the UK arresting and charging people for holding placards condemning the terror cell Hezbollah? And yet the UK officials are concerned you might be offending pro-Hezbollah people and anti-Israel protesters. What has happened to the UK, folks? What do you make of Emmanuel Macron, by the way? Literally being pushed in the face by his, whatever she is, wife? I don't know. I'm not sure what she is, but that's what they claim she is. It seems as though we just have a lot of degenerates running these nations, right? Tools of Satan. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. Again, what are your thoughts on any of these news stories? Here's another one. What about Israel? Is this on your radar? Or has much of the world forgotten about Israel? Do you think America should even be paying attention? How about American Christians? Should we be paying attention? What are your thoughts on that? 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Let's pick it up, Aaron. Missiles were coming in over the weekend. My Red Alert app was going off. What's going on?
Yes, the Houthis continue to fire at us. They're under the instructions, of course, of the Iranians, just to keep us on our toes, to keep terrorizing our nation, and to get the all the major air companies to continue to cancel. And you know what this does, Brennan? It gets the local people to turn against our government. It's causing internal problem. This is strategic. We actually, some of our soldiers actually found some written information when they went into Gaza about the strategies of the Gazans, the Hamas, and the Houthis about this very thing I'm talking about, to do this kind of guerrilla warfare so that it will turn the people of Israel against each other and against their government. We found written documents proving that it's true. And you know what? Who are the biggest suckers? We are, because we're falling for it. That's exactly what we're doing. But we're continuing to...
Let's go to the phone lines. But before I do, let me go to the phone lines. Before I do, how concerned are you, Aaron, that the Abraham Accords would have Israel compromise land and then invite God's judgment on America?
Wow, that's a big question, Brennan. I really think on the area of compromise, that is a major concern, especially with someone like Bibi Netanyahu, who I love Bibi, I vote for him, but the economy is his real strength as well as PR. And, to make peace with these oil-rich Arab countries, That's a great feat, to make peace with them. And the way to make peace is through making deals, which means money, just like Donald Trump did a couple of weeks ago when he was in the area. So we can sell our souls for money, and that's the compromise. And that's why the kings were told not to increase in gold, chariots, and women, because usually when they made a tie with a foreign leader, it included that.
Let's go to Lily in Arizona, line 1. Hi, Lily. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for this really important message regarding the letter that you read and the impact on the personal lives that we so often neglect under the circumstances. And all I know is watch my dad, a World War II vet, never really recover from what happened then. Alcoholism took him out. Basically, my brother-in-law in Vietnam mentally was never the same. And then my brother, a survival instructor in the Air Force, his family had to live without him because he basically trained, Air Force men to survive. So when you get down to the grassroots and the home issues and the personal issues, definitely whoever wrote that letter had a heart to see the story behind the story that is so often neglected. So pray.
Well said, Lily. Well said. Thank you, Lily. Ryan, line 4, North Dakota. Ryan, thank you.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, we talk about the revised Roman Empire and stuff coming, and that will come. But, for the sake of our great-great-grandchildren and everybody after us, let's keep our military or our watchmen on the wall sort of eyes alert to the fact that there could be a revised Greek, then Persian, then Babylon, too, that we still have to get through before we get to that revised Roman Empire. It could be very long term, and we got to play the long game for the sake of our grandchildren.
Yeah, it sure could. Faith in Pennsylvania, go real fast, Faith. We'll get you in. Go, Faith.
Hello?
Faith?
Yeah.
Go real quick. We'll get you in.
All right, thank you.
Oh, not going to get her in. All right. She's gone. Okay. We tried. Sorry, Faith. All right. Aaron is lighttothenationsministry.com, lighttothenationsministry.com. Hey, be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up right now on the VCY America Radio Network, vcy.org with Jim Schneider. All right. Thanks for listening. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube. Aaron, I want to go back real quick to the Abraham Accords. I want you to concentrate not on Israel, but on America. What do you think, if the Abraham Accords require Israel to compromise land, what do you think will happen to America?
Well, I'm definitely not sitting in the judgment seat of God, but I don't know if America are going to be directly responsible for Israel's decisions. We are responsible for our decisions.
But what if it's President Trump though that's pushing it and pushing it? What if he's the one pushing for some kind of concessions?
Well, that's something else. And whether the good Lord is going to judge just Donald Trump and his administrative team, or the whole nation of America, I don't know. But is it going to be Bibi Netanyahu that's going to get judged along with Donald Trump? I really don't know. It's a fantastic question. Compromise opens the door, and it may not be God's judgment. It may simply mean that we will reap what we've sowed. In other words, if we open a door for compromise, then our enemies will take advantage of that. And it may, as I say, it may not be a direct judgment of God, but it could be the consequences of the compromise that we may reap negative results.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to something I don't think your government, your people talk about enough. Here it is on our website today. It's linked over at worldviewreport.com. The 1920 San Remo Conference. These are international agreements, folks, that declare before 1948 that Israel, the Jews, have a historical right to the land. I don't think Israel quotes this enough. 1920, San Remo Conference, the Balfour Declaration, you know, right? 1920 Treaty of Sèvres, 1922 League of Nations mandate for Palestine, the 1923 Treaty of Lausanne, Article 80 of the 1945 UN Charter preserving the rights vested in the Jewish people under the 1922 mandate for Palestine. So, Aaron, I'm not so sure that Americans are aware of most of these. We've talked about them over the years. How much of this is talked about in Israel among your own young people? Do your own young people know your history and this?
Yes. You know, to what degree, I'm not sure, but these are absolutely important treaties, part of our history, part of leading up to the formation of the State of Israel. It's probably taught in history classes, modern Zionist classes, and school field trips, and soldiers, as part of their training, their psychological training, they are taken to some of these sites where we talk about these historical events, and they're educated with these very things so that it gets installed right into our soul that, you know, our for 2,000, 3,000 years, our forefathers dreamed and prayed and fought for these things. And yet only, 100 or so years ago, there were people like Theodore Herzl and Chaim Weizmann and Ben Gurion. They were living, fighting for this, and they made it happen. And along with that, we had Arab nations who rejected these offers. They were promised, they were guaranteed their own homeland time after time, and they rejected it. For them, it was all or nothing. For them, there was no compromise, and they would probably look upon that as a trait, as a positive thing. No, we're not going to compromise. But they missed out, as Golda Meir once said. She said the Palestinian people never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and they had it time and
all right, let's switch real quick in our last remaining moments. Have a little conversation on the air here. Now, I don't know if you know this, but we have started a Worldview History Channel project. We just released on Friday our first History Channel program, where we went to the attempted assassination location when it comes to President Reagan there at the Washington Hilton. We want to get you a camera and get you out to these sites, and we need you filing regular reports telling us about the locations and the sites and getting footage so you can send it back to us on Dropbox, and then we can produce 30-minute, 15-minute specials, an hour with voiceover on historical sites in Israel. You want to do that?
Brandon, I can start to do that today, tomorrow. I've got.
I knew you could.
I can do that, and
all right.
I can travel down, and we can start to do that. And if
let's
you
do
want
it.
me to,
all right, let's talk to Logan and get this going.
Great, sounds great.
Yep, let's get it going, folks. There you go. That'd be great. All right, thanks for listening, folks. Talk to you tonight on Worldview Report and Brandon House Live. Take care.